A big decision could be coming up this week on whether to bring forward the national phasing out of caged eggs to 2036, 10 years ahead of schedule that'd be. The proposed move could see cartons eventually go for $15 a pop. This was the National Farmers Federation on the program earlier on spiking egg prices.
The inputs are continuing to rise, the input costs. So whether that's labour or, free range environment for chickens and eggs, that'll put costs on Australian farmers, which will mean the prices will have to rise.
All right, let's go to Canberra now. Joining us is the Nationals leader and the Shadow Agriculture Minister as well, David Littleproud. David, good to see you. So we've got the meeting of Agriculture Ministers up tomorrow. Do you suspect this is the beginning of the end for caged eggs?
Well, sadly, I think it is. I think that we've got wall-to-wall Labor now, and the only reason that didn't happen last time was that we had a coalition government in New South Wales, the Nationals Agricultural Minister in New South Wales, where between Queensland and New South Wales, where most of the egg production is, where they resisted this move because effectively this is the decision of individual states. Animal welfare is determined by individual states. What Minco tries to do is get a uniform decision. Now, I hope that the ministers in New South Wales and Queensland have the courage and conviction to support egg producers and to continue on with the status quo, because farmers have made investment decisions predicated on that. This effectively is a retrospective decision if they change it, because our egg producers made decisions, investment decisions of millions of dollars because they believe they had till 2046. And to change that, they'll have to bear that cost. And I fear that, unfortunately, the supermarkets will try and use this as well if it is imposed, and not all those costs of the increase will actually be borne by the consumer. I suspect farmers will have to bear some of this, and that's not fair, and that's not right. That's un-Australian.
Well, that's what Tony was just referring to as well. Some producers expect, as we mentioned in the intro, that a carton of eggs could eventually go for $15 a pop. So is that what you're referring to there?
Exactly. I mean, this is the investment that you're talking about is anywhere from around $2 or $3 million through to $20 million, depending on the scale of your production. And this is where people need to understand that cost has to be passed on. Now, the supermarkets sometimes try to keep that cost back on the farmer and they bear some of that cost. They can't afford to do that because margins are already tight. I've got to say, if you look at a free-range production system, I've been to one in my own electorate whereby the chooks don't even want to go outside because they fear predators. They like the shelter. So I think there's conflicting science around this as well. And I think this is why we don't need to rush. There needs to be more consultation. But the Queensland and New South Wales agricultural ministers need to break away and do their own thing and pause on this, because that's where the majority of egg production in this country prevails. But,
I mean, Europe and New Zealand, they've already moved towards this. And 2036, is that not still a fair run-up to prepare for changes?
Well, I don't think New Zealand is the gold star on anything to follow, with due respect. We've seen what they've done around a methane tax to their farmers over there. So I don't think we should take any advice from New Zealand in any way, shape or form. But what's happened is that our egg producers have made significant capital investments in these cages, and the useful life of these cages was out to 2046. They now have to pivot to get away from that. And that's an extra cost, an extra burden that they're going to have to invest. And that takes time when cash flows are tight. You just don't pull money out of the air when you're an egg producer. There are tight margins that you're working on, and that has to be passed on. And I think this just needs some more consultation.
All right. And just a final one here, David. How disappointing for you? The trade deal with Europe is off for now?
No, I'm not disappointed. It's got to be the right deal for us. We only export around $2 billion to the EU, while they import around $6 billion worth of agricultural product. We need to make sure that the quotas are satisfactory. We need to make sure that the geographical indicators aren't given away, particularly for wine and dairy. And we're also very concerned about this push by the EU to impose their production systems on Australia. We're in a different continent, and they want to remove much of our herbicides and pesticides and fertilisers and think that they have better animal welfare standards than ours. So I've got great concerns about the EU imposing their will on us. So it's important that the government holds firm and gets the best deal for Australian agriculture. And if it's not there, then we should walk away. When they walked away with the UK from us in the 60s, we found this place called Asia and the Middle East, and they've been very good trading partners, and we'll continue to try and diversify through those markets. But if the EU wants to come to the party, then we're more than happy under our terms to sign up with them.
Okay. David Littleproud, we're out of time. Appreciate your time, though. We'll talk to you soon.